Hey guys, it's Joe from Pocketnow.com. Let's go take a look at Sprint's latest phone. It's the Samsung Epic 4G. Alright, so Brandon already showed you a lot of this stuff, but I want to go over it a little bit more in detail. This is the packaging that the Sprint Epic 4G comes in. This is a 4G phone using Sprint's WiMAX network, but it's also a Samsung Galaxy S series phone. Now, unlike most Galaxy S's, this one has a physical keyboard, as you can clearly see on the box. The box is a little bit busy on the front, has a logo over on this side with some social networking icons, and then same thing over here with the AMOLED and whatnot. Bottom of the box completely empty, and top of the box has a bunch of barcodes that I'm not going to go into detail with. The back of the box has all of this information, so just very basic. But let's get on to the good stuff. First thing I want to show you is your little power adapter. Now this is a wall wart. It is not grounded, so it will fit neatly in any power plug without taking up too much space. With regular wall warts, you've got a problem where you plug the thing in and it blocks 2 or 3 outlets, and it's a hassle to plug in, a couple of those, and your surge strip is full. So this is nice. It's compact. It's relatively heavy, kind of deceptively heavy for its size. But there you've got your little USB power port in it. Now, of course, it's got a USB cord that goes along with it. There is the normal side, and then micro USB on the other end. Now, of course, you can plug this into your computer, or you can plug this in right here, just like so. But let's move on. Next is the unusual thing that we found in the package, and that is this little guy. It is a Samsung branded micro SD adapter. So you can take the micro SD card that comes with the camera. It's a 16 gigabyte class 2, so not that fast, but pretty good sized. Take this, pop it out, and plug it into anything that has a nice SD card slot in it for you. So you don't have to go through anything proprietary. You don't have to load any drivers or software if you're plugging it in via USB. So very convenient, especially if you want to get those pictures off while on your vacation. Pop the micro SD out, pop it in there, take it to the kiosk, and you're good to go. Next, we've got these really cool headsets, and I was fighting with the tangled mess off camera here. I was really impressed with these. First of all, they look really slim, really small, really nice, polished. They've got these nice little squishies to adapt to the size of your ear for your noise isolation. But coming down, you've got this little guy. So this is down the right side, the right headphone. You've got your speaker and your mute button. So you can be listening to music and get a phone call. You've got your speaker right there. You can mute it if you need to ask somebody something in the middle of the phone call. Very nice. The cord length is reasonable, not too long. And then, of course, you've got one of these newer slimline jacks on the other end, of course, with the multiple bars in here for the right and left and the microphone audio as well. You also get this little bag that comes with a little bit smaller and a little bit larger pair of squishies, so you can adapt those to your ears as needed. So that's kind of cool, but I know you're not interested in all that. You want to get to the phone. So we're going to divide this review up into a hardware review and a software review. Starting out here with the hardware, that's the phone, and it's just gorgeous. Put it right next to the Nexus 1, and I'm doing this kind of offset for you for a reason that I'll show you in just a minute. The size is pretty much the same. As far as height goes, you're looking at just a teeny bit longer. As far as width goes, it's about the same width, maybe a little bit more. Where you get into a difference here is in the thickness. Now, the thickness is because of the sliding keyboard. Now, this is a spring-assisted keyboard, which is very nice. That means you start pushing it up and it'll finish popping up. You start pushing it down, it'll finish popping down. On the Droid 2, it's not. You slide it that far and you get that much, so you've got to push it all the way. This is kind of nice. It's a little bit faster to actuate the keyboard, and it's very, very smooth. I've got to give Samsung kudos for that. Once you're inside, you've got a very responsive keyboard. I don't know if you can hear the clickiness of that, but it gives you just enough tactile feedback and enough sound feedback to know that you're actually pushing the buttons, and it feels really good under finger. thing I don't like about this is it's in a grid. It's not staggered like you'd find on a normal keyboard, which is kind of frustrating. Both my wife and I, both when we were typing, found ourselves hitting the wrong key because we were touch typing on it and it was in the wrong spot. That's something that I'm sure you can overcome just by using it a little bit more, so not too big of a thing, but something to keep in mind. One thing where Samsung really wins, and this, I can't give them enough credit for this, you've got your Android buttons right over here, including this directional T-pad. So you've got your menu button, back, home, and search right there on your keyboard, and then you've got your cursor navigation over here. You don't really have a cursor per se, but you can navigate between fields and between hyperlinks using this as well. So it's really convenient. You've also got a little smiley face key on the keyboard there, so that's kind of nice. Let's get on to the rest of the phone. First of all, you'll notice this screen is big and gorgeous. When we do the software review, I'll show you more how gorgeous it is. You can't see it right now all that much, but I've got a few fingerprints and smudges on this screen. They don't show up at all when the screen is on. It's amazing. That's one of the biggest problems that I have with my Nexus 1 is this thing is a fingerprint magnet. I have to clean it, wipe it, get rid of those fingerprints 2-3 times a day. But with the Samsung, it blurs up just like you'd expect, but when that light is on, you don't have to worry about it at all. Now another thing to note, you've got this entire surface. This is all one glass piece with a little cutout up here for your speaker. Your microphone is buried way down here, so it's not on the front at all, and there aren't any buttons here, any physical buttons. Now, I'll show you in the software review here, you actually have a menu button, a home, a back, and a search button, just like you do over on the Nexus 1, except you can't see them. Here, they're not physical buttons that you can push. They're touch-sensitive areas of the screen that when the screen is on, you can touch them. On the Nexus 1, you know where they are where they are all the time, but on the Epic, you can't see them. That, from a design perspective, is beautiful because you have this whole flat black surface that's only ruined by the two logos. And I say ruined because I'm not a really big logo guy. Take a look at the Nexus 1. You don't have any logos on the front at all. You've got your logos for HTC and Google on the back. So flip this over, you've got your Galaxy S and your Sprint 4G logos on the back, as well as some other information we'll get to. But they don't need to be here. That's just overkill, and it really takes away from just how clean and beautiful this screen is, especially when it's on. But these buttons, you have to touch somewhere to activate them and then touch again to take that text input or that button input. Kind of frustrating. You've got some LEDs, some ambient light sensors, and then of course the front-facing camera that I'll show you more about in the software review, so stay tuned for that. But let's get on to looking at the sides and the back. Underneath, we've already showed you, right there is your microphone. Over on the side, you have your physical camera button, something that I really, really like. I don't have one of those on the Nexus. So you can activate the camera app and take the picture right there using a physical button. Very nice. Up at the top is the power button. Now this power button is not the same as, it's not in the same location as it is on the Nexus 1. Which is kind of hard to get used to. I've gotten used to turning on my phone, turning it off, using my index finger. Now I have to get used to doing it with my thumb, but that didn't take long at all for me to get used to. What did take a little bit of time is, over here I can push my trackball, because I'm running CyanogenMod, and it turns on the screen. Over here I don't have that. In fact, it took me a while before I realized there is no trackpad on this phone. There is no big glowing ball to let you know when you have a notification like there is on the Nexus 1. And I thought I would miss that a lot, and really I didn't. It's surprising how much I didn't miss that. You might, so I bring that up just in case. Over here you've got your volume rocker, and it functions really, really well. On the top, you've got your 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, your multi-purpose jack. I'll come back to this in a minute. You've got your 5 megapixel autofocus camera with LED flash. Now this is the only Galaxy S so far that has an LED flash on it, and it really is nice. It's something I've gotten accustomed to with the Nexus 1, and for the Galaxy S to finally have this on the Sprint 4G, it's very worthwhile. Down on the bottom you've got your external speaker, which I don't like positioning of external speakers on the back of the device. Why, when you're watching something on your device, do you have your sound going away from you? You have to cup your hand behind it to direct that sound back to the front, or of course have your headphones. So let's go back to this. This is a regular micro USB port that Samsung has amped up with some bells and whistles. We'll talk about those in a while too. But it's got a door on it, and this door is nearly impossible to use. Even there, I've got it closed, but it's not closed all the way, and I can't get it closed all the way. To open it, close it, it's a pain, so I've just been leaving it open. Why they have that on there, I don't know. You have to charge this phone frequently, but the Nexus 1 has theirs right there, and it's not a problem. I don't know. You'll also notice you've got these 3 gold dots on the bottom of the Nexus 1. There are no dots on the bottom of the Epic, which is kind of a shame because you have to have that door open to charge it, and inevitably it's going to be left open. Once it is open, you can just pop that micro USB cable in there. It fits securely and snugly. Here's one more place where Samsung did a great job. This is the top of the phone. That is where that is. You can have this sitting in a cup holder in your car with the cord coming out the top and not have to worry about having the phone upside down to be able to charge it like you do with the Nexus. So fabulous, good job. I wish everyone would do that either in the top or on the top part of the sides, but I think that would interfere with buttons. So far so good. Let's break into this, and this is not an easy process. When we got this originally, it came with the battery pre-installed, so there wasn't any mucking around that had to be done, and when this thing is put together, it's put together tight. There's a little thumb tab, there we go, that you can get your thumb in, but if you've got the back installed correctly, it's snug and tight. Now, before I show you the innards, notice back here you've got your hole, basically, for your camera and your LED. There is no plastic or glass or polycarbonate or anything in there. It's just straight through, which is fabulous. Over here, you've got the lens to the camera. On the Nexus 1, you take off this back panel, and the lens is part of the back. So you've got to clean that, and then once you're on the inside, let me go ahead and pop that off. So this is closed. You've got to clean this, you've got to clean this, and there's just a lot more area where you could have potential dust or debris or stuff build up. Samsung's idea to raise this out from the back of the camera and then just have a back that pivots in place rather than slides, I think is a piece of genius. That's amazing, and I think everybody should do that. It's wonderful. Now, we'll come back over here, and you've got, first thing that I noticed is you've got some external camera connection, or excuse me, some external antenna connections that you don't have access to through the back. That's a little bit self-defeating, I would imagine, but at least you have access. There's also a fourth one down here. You'll also notice you've got your micro SD slot right there with a nice little guide to help you get it in and out. Again, 16 gigabyte, class 2 is what came with it. We'll just go ahead and slide that back in. Now, this is a CDMA phone, so there is no SIM slot anywhere, not even hiding underneath the battery. To activate this phone, you've got to call up Sprint, you've got to give them the information. You're probably buying it from them already activated, or buying it from their store, so you can just transfer over your current account to this. So if that's what you're doing, great. Couple more things and we'll move on. This is one of the more confusing things, and I'm probably reading this wrong. This is a 3.7 volt lithium ion battery, and to me it looks like it's 5.55 watt hours, which that's a huge battery, but either I'm reading it wrong or they're trying to fool you, because you flip it over and it's a 1500 milliamp hour battery, which honestly is nowhere near enough for this phone. This is an amazingly fast phone. So, last thing about the hardware, and we'll put this back on before I go to that, snap it all in place. You'll notice this has what I'd like to call an inverted chin. If you're familiar with the original Google phones that came out for T-Mobile and whatnot, they had a little chin leaning out. The G1, for example, had that little part of the phone. You remember what I'm talking about? On the bottom of the phone, just kind of stuck forward a little bit, kind of made it look like it was cupped more to your face. Well, this has got it, except in the opposite. It's got this little chin leaning away from you. A little bit thicker there. It actually is really nice because it gives you a place to kind of hang on to the phone, just 2-3 fingered, and makes it easier to use it in a one-handed operation. So really, really cool. I'll touch more on this when we do the software review, but speaking of hardware, this phone has 802.11b, G, and N built into it, and I could really see the N performance on my home network. Now, the Nexus 1 has 802.11n capable, but you're not going to unlock it until you have the drivers for it. And those drivers I've only found coming from CyanogenMod and his team, not from official Google releases, though I could be wrong there. They might have slipped it in the Froyo release, and I just don't know. These guys, it comes just right there, right out of the chute, you've got 802.11n. What you don't have is 4G, which is kind of unusual. I did a factory reset on this phone to make sure it was exactly like they intended, and 4G is turned off. So you have to go in and turn 4G on. When you turn 4G on, it turns Wi-Fi off. So you have to choose, do you want Wi-Fi or do you want 4G, or do you want to manually toggle between the two? That's a problem, and I don't think it's necessarily Sprint's fault. It's because, as I understand, WiMAX uses the 2.5 gigahertz spectrum just like 802.11x does. B, G, and N can all sit and behave nicely on that same frequency. I don't know why 4G can't. It's probably going through the same antenna, which is why. So instead of having duplicate antennas in there, you have to toggle it, but still it's a pain in the neck. Why should I have to choose between high speed at home or high speed on the road? So I hope they can address that, and I hope it's not something that's going to require hardware to do it. But overall, this is a very, very impressive phone. I have some complaints about the Sprint network in testing this. 4G is spotty in my area at best. I had to drive about 20-30 minutes to get to it. But when I did, I went from 3G of about somewhere around 300-400 kilobit per second up speeds, or excuse me, down speeds, to about 5. We were sometimes a little bit higher, sometimes a little bit lower than 5 megabit per second. So it's really, really impressive when you've got the coverage and when it's turned on, which it wouldn't have been turned on because I use Wi-Fi at home. So we're back to the chicken and the egg problem. Other than that, call quality was spectacular, just as I expected. It's a really, really good phone. I don't know if it's got the 2 microphones for active cancellation like the Nexus 1 does. I couldn't see another microphone hole like on the Nexus 1. You've got this one down here for your voice, and you've got this one back here for the ambient sounds, and then using a software algorithm, it will do noise cancellation to make your voice sound better. Well, over here, I didn't see that, but they sounded great, both making calls over the Sprint network and using Google Voice, which of course is VoIP once you get to the middle, but it's still Sprint network on the end to my phone and to their tower. All in all, very impressive phone. I've got to give it 4 out of 5 stars rather than a full 5 out of 5 because of the whole 4G Wi-Fi issue and because of the keyboard not having the staggered keys. But for a Samsung phone, which normally I am, you could even call me a Samsung hater. Every Samsung phone that I've had in the past I have absolutely despised. They've done their job, but that's about it. This phone takes all of that away. If you've looked at the Samsung phones for T-Mobile, the Behold 2, this doesn't hold a light to them. I mean, it's amazing. You'll look at this, you'll think that it's gorgeous. The screen is actually about yay big, but you can't tell, especially when you're watching a show. It just kind of blends into the background. Gorgeous overall, 4 out of 5. If you're on Sprint and you want a physical keyboard, you're not going with the Evo, this is the phone for you. If you don't care one way or another, the Evo is a great phone, but the Samsung Epic 4G is every bit as powerful and every bit as great. So, for Pocketnow, taking an early look at the Sprint Samsung Epic 4G, I'm Joe Levi. Don't you hate it when you're so excited about a product that you forget to include some of the important technical specifications? Well, I did just that. This phone, the Sprint Samsung Epic 4G, has a 1 gigahertz Hummingbird processor, which is ridiculously fast. It's every bit as fast as the Qualcomms and whatnot in the other phones. It's got half a gig rather of RAM and half a gig of ROM on board, and it is just a spectacularly fast phone. Like I mentioned, it is CDMA. It runs on the Sprint Nextel network. You can see a whole bunch more detailed specifications, including the height, width, depth, the weight, all that fun stuff in the article related to this video. You can check the video notes to see a hyperlink over to those specifications. And of course, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed to our video channel, now is the time to do it. We're getting more and more of these early looks at the production devices, and that's what this is. This is a production phone. It is not a pre-release or a demo model phone. This is a production model. This is what you're going to see on the shelves when it is officially released. If you want to be up to date with that kind of information, the only way you can do it is to subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our RSS feed over at Pocketnow.com. So again, for Pocketnow, showing off the Samsung Epic 4G, I'm Joe Levi.